I know some things, but I don't know everything. And a big thing they teach you in school, especially the college that I received my degree from, is that you have to constantly question things. And in order to question things, it helps you learn more because as you try to find the answers to these questions that keep you up at night, it just makes you realize how much bigger the world is than how you originally thought it was. All of this is to say, I liked Barbie. I, as a brand, I feel very close to Barbie because I loved playing with Barbies as a child. And even though I had a lot of like tomboyish qualities growing up, I would always find myself drawn back to Barbies because Barbies are amazing. Pink's my favorite color, even though that's not something I like to be particularly open about, which is more to do with my internalized misogyny, but that's for another time. Anyway, Barbie is a movie now. It was a movie that I saw the same day I saw Oppenheimer with my family. And I didn't realize until I saw like the production company's logos before the film that Mattel produced it, helped produce it. And Mattel is the company that makes Barbies. And that made me feel a little weird, to say the least. And especially near the end when Ken, who is Barbie's boyfriend, I don't know if you knew that, if you know the lore of Barbie or if you've seen the movie, he wears this sweatshirt that says, "I'm Knuff." After he has this big musical number, after he comes to terms with who he is as a person, independent of Barbie, and it's a nice sweatshirt. I mean, I'll give it to them. It's a really nice sweatshirt. It's like a little, it's tie-dye, but it has a specific like tuft quality, fur quality to it. So it's not like fur, but it's like fleece. It's like tufted fleece. I would describe it as tufted fleece. Naturally, after the movie, I looked up to see if there was a place online to buy the sweatshirt, and of course there was. And you know where you can buy it? On Mattel's website. So, things were starting to click for me in the fact that what it means when you get the approval of a product that you're making a movie about is you have to help them with advertising and you have to help them sell the thing that you're talking about. And if you don't give them a tangible thing to sell, then why would they want to invest in this? If you're not going to make the money, why would they want to invest in your movie? And it's a similar thing to how I feel about watching a movie that doesn't, like, only has like one song, but then you find out as you're watching the movie, you hear how the song's produced and how the song sounds, and you're like, oh, this is available on Spotify for me to stream to make more money. And that's not to say that all movies are like with songs in it are cash grabs. That's just to say I get hesitant. Especially if there's only like one song. I'm talking about very specific movie. Whether or not I'm gonna reveal what that movie is in this example, I'll decide once I edit this video. Okay. So, all of that is to say, this movie was trying to sell you something. Even if you're not a kid. Even if you're not a kid who hasn't played with a Barbie in years. As an adult, it's trying to sell you this sweatshirt. Even the experience of Barbenheimer, it was the idea of like selling you the experience. And I follow someone on Letterboxd who I thought had a really good point in a review he made. And since I know that this guy is a guy and he likes movies, I've decided to animate Adam Driver speaking this review as I read it out loud, just because I associate all men who like movies, I think they all look like Adam Driver. And just to give a face to this name, at Mr. Bennis. He's a pro member. Should bring that up. I think that might be important. This review helped remind me to be more curious and to question the things you like. And that's what you should do. This review reminded me to be more curious and to question the things I like. And so I would implore you to question the things you like. But anyway, I'll get into Adam Driver's review. Well, not Adam Driver. You know what I mean. I think this movie kind of knows it doesn't have the juice. It gets really into very shallow, ultra-literalized dissection of, I guess, the meaning of life, the whole of womanhood, and also why we die. And then it sort of prevaricates and laughs off any real follow-up to any of it. The even more disappointing part is that the movies that have been promised to us in the marketing and interviews in the lead up to Barbie's release, at least the fragments of them that exist in the version you actually end up watching, are really fun. And I would have had a great time watching either the petroleum gloss Dawn and Manelli extravaganza or the fish out of water family fun classic a la Elf, but neither show up long enough to get going. I'd say that whatever late night pact Gerwig and Baumbach made that brought us the print shift and children's block's maximalism of white noise and Barbie hasn't produced anything evolutionary, and certainly not revolutionary, in either of their work. These are big swings resulting in big, looping pop flies, all height and no distance. Fun, sure, but thrillless. My go-to theory for the sorts of shortcomings this movie has would usually be studio meddling. It's got a surprisingly boilerplate set of ailments like kludgy pacing and punch-up-itis, but in Hollywood's dire state, I kind of think you can't make a movie this big, suppose yourself an artist, or even just a craftsperson, and not end up in a highly self-conscious state about the merit and meaning of your work. A lot of this feels self-inflicted. I wish I had a silver lining to offer, or could squint and see the subversion, or even just see a snapshot of an artist I admire getting to joyride a bigger rig. But instead I feel like I watched a movie by someone who is embarrassed by how nice of a car they drive. The movie appears consistently worried and mindful of how it's coming across, possessing all the verve and audacity of an undecided voter. That any conversation about this movie can be bracketed within the larger context of the film being explicitly a reverse-engineered 2-hour advertisement for a flagging toy corporation's cheap plastic output leaves the whole project in a tough spot. Even with all that, Gerwig's craft, ingenuity, and visual precision still makes inroads on the senses. Things really and truly are tactile and large and bright and, for the most part, engaging. But I just figured that if I was already being asked to pay the existential tax of watching a movie about a thing a company makes cheaply in Taiwan, that perfectly square block of gum I would be presented with would at least have a crisply folded wrapper. It makes it that much harder to go along with a film when even its essential, optimistic design winds up wadded up and kind of just stuck various places. I would never call anyone's taste into question for liking this movie. It's full of plenty of things to like. It wants to be liked. But in the end, movies about products that end up in landfills present a limbo bar I've yet to find myself flexible enough to shimmy under. I wish I could chalk it up to me being no fun, but I think this one might disappoint a fair amount of people who aren't strictly cranks like me. What I'm trying to say is, I think Mr. Bennis brings up a lot of good points.
Something that I forgot to elaborate on that I wanted to elaborate on is the fact that the makings of a good movie, and specifically a good story, is caring about the characters and wanting to know what happens to the characters even after the movie is done, or maybe even before the movie. And I just didn't feel like that. Instead, I felt more connected to the world, more connected to the setting they built, especially the world of Barbie world. And that kind of makes me sad that the setting was that much stronger than the actual characters. And I think that's something that Mr. Bennis particularly articulated very well. And I think it goes back to the idea that the world we build for ourselves as children when we play pretend is much more interesting than adults trying to rebuild that or a corporation building it. Okay, now to the outro.
Be curious. Go out there, be curious. Like stuff, don't like stuff. Thank you to Mr. Bennis for letting me share this review. I'll link it down below in the description if you want to read it in its full. Just like I did, I read it in its full. If you want to read the review, the link is in the description. I would recommend following Mr. Bennis. He's a great follow on Letterboxd. Stay curious. That's it.